Hi guys, and I am Chris.
Notice he's not Shane.
Definitely
I'm Lex.
We need to do like a Saturday Night Live intro.
Live from...
I kind of like what we did here, so I mean...
Lex
Chris,
Hansa! All right.
Enough of that. Get on with it.
Yes.
So, guys, we're going to go over what's new in Deploy 9.
Cool.
So, should we cut over to the other side here?
Sure. Awesome.
All right, so as you guys have seen before, right here, under PDQ Deploy, where it says version 9, you click on what's new. Basically takes you to something I never centered this morning with JJ, which is what the update notes, okay? So basically what I always say to everybody, RTFM, I forget what that means, but basically you should read this, right? So we're not going to read through all these. Obviously we got some bug fixes, but a couple of really cool things we've got. We've got database backup, a PowerShell step, and then repository cleanup. So should we jump right in?
Yeah, let's do it. We got some awesome
All right, so
stuff.
first let's just take a quick shot at looking at your database backup. So this, if you go to Preferences, you go under File, Preferences, under Database, you'll see you have an automated backup schedule, which you can set. Obviously, you know, this one's set to run on Saturday at 10 p.m. and here's your location, obviously, and then it'll keep as many renditions of that as you like as you change that number there. Again, you can go look. I backed it one up this morning, so there you go. There's your
Best
backup.
practice. There you go. One thing to note with that also is that for those of you who haven't upgraded to Deploy 9 yet, when you do, this gets set by default so that you actually have backups.
An automatic backup.
Yeah. So.
Hence automatic. So
Yep.
yeah, and again, these would be the defaults right there.
They are. Be careful with setting it to 0, like it says down here, that it is set to 0 for unlimited backups. If you do that and you don't keep an eye on it, you're going to have a bad time. You're going to fill up your disk.
You think?
Well, it depends on the size.
Again, the more nodes and machines you have that you are deploying to and the more deployments you keep in history, the bigger that database is going to be.
Yep.
So, you know, just be aware of that. You'll also notice down here the send it. This is nothing new. I just want to point this out. Send database to admin arsenal. If you guys end up having an error and we need to look at your database, we will give you a code. You hit that button, plug it in, and it will send us the database. None of your passcodes, just your database. So, anything else on database backups?
That's pretty much it. I mean, it's pretty simple. I mean, you can kind of configure it how you like in other schedules. You know, you get your daily, weekly, monthly, interval, whatever you want. You can do it every 5 minutes, I think, if you really wanted to, but I don't know why you would.
I wouldn't do it.
That's just silly.
All right, so anyway, if anyone has a question on that, cue that up. I mean, let us know, guys, if they happen to have a question on backups. Yeah. Let's talk about repository cleanup. Now, this one needs to have a little discussion. I almost spit on you. Sorry about that. Okay, so basically, normally when you go out to your repository, come on, Chris, bust on me if I screw up, buddy.
So laughing.
You'll notice Inkscape here. If I delete that, the package disappears here, but we do happen to keep in the repository the install files. Okay, this is, you know, we didn't want to start ripping out files that you had without you guys knowing that it was happening, or two. And of course you see Inkscape, and there's the files, you know, because we don't know if you're manually installing those and that's where you bring them from. So we have the repository cleanup. So if you click down here on unused files, it'll show unused files in the status bar, which we'll show you that in just a second. But there are all the unused files. So again, I can clean these up pretty easy. I just select all.
It's Lex-proof.
I can hit delete. Lex-proof. Did Shane cue you, like bust on me every chance you get somewhere along the lines? Or?
No, it's just a given.
It's a given.
Oh, right.
Busting on me. Okay, so here's a warning. Okay, this is going to clean up the ones that are in your repository. So if you've got, you know, install files that you're pulling from other places that are not your repository, it's not going to clean those up.
Yep.
Now, one thing to think about with a shared repository. Chris uses it, I use it. Okay, I delete one off mine, it's going to show as an unused file on my console.
Yep, not on mine.
So if I go out and delete it, I'm messing with Chris, which I have no issue doing, but as long as you know you're doing it, right? So just be careful if you're using shared repository that, you know,
I don't know. Those could be shared. What are we doing?
Oh, these are not shared. They're on my C drive, man.
I know.
Boom. Gone. All right, cleaned up. And if you go back to your repository, you will notice Inkscape and a bunch of those folders that were there are now gone. It's been cleaned up. So things to remember on that, guys. Shared repository, just be sure before you clean things up that no one else is using it. Okay. Now, what if it's okay, the other thing I guess we'd have to talk about is if you have a shared package, right?
Yes.
So if the shared package exists on your machine and exists on another machine, then it will not show up in here. It won't delete it. So anyway, those are two, little maintenance on both of those, kind of cool cleanup and that. And JJ says we have a question. Let's hit it.
Sweet.
Kelly, give it to us, baby.
Dear Lex and Chris, can you tell me what the process is for the cleanup when removing files from the repository? Are they simply going to the recycle bin? Doug K.
Hey, Doug.
Howdy.
I'm going to open the recycle bin.
Stellar reading, by the way.
Yeah. That was good.
Yeah.
Completely annoying. We were talking earlier about annoying radio voices. So.
No,
I did. I wanted that. That's
he
true.
can do 10
Okay.
degrees more. That's
So, yes, you'll notice my repository has some shortcuts and stuff I had in here from a while back, but none of the files. So
Yep. They're just gone. Poof.
Gone. Poof.
Poof.
Dang. Out. So, hope that answers that question for you. And then again, just be careful. So, do we have any more questions, JJ, or should we talk PowerShell?
let's take this PowerShell question.
Oh, okay. We'll start off with PowerShell question.
Sweet.
Thanks for the superb feature of PowerShell in version 9. Now that we have PowerShell, can we check existence of an app or a service during install? And if the app not during install, then can we deploy the app? Duck here.
Hi, Duck here.
Amen.
Okay, so 2 thoughts on this. One is you can address this entirely in PowerShell. You can actually do everything, do a try-catch block, do an if-else statement, and say, hey, if this program or this service is on or running on this machine, hello.
There you go.
Go ahead and do something else, and that's all entirely in the PowerShell step itself. As for taking it as a condition in the in the package itself or on the step itself, no. In this case, we might recommend that you actually use PDQ inventory and create a dynamic collection and actually...
That is the best way to do that.
Yeah, set up something to say, hey, is Firefox installed on all these machines? And if it is, great, you can deploy to it, set up a schedule, a target list, you've got tons of options. Mm-hmm. So I think that'd be the best one.
So best is inventory, but yes, you could script it in PowerShell.
Yeah.
Complex PowerShell script, but yes, you can do it. Now, Chris, what if that PowerShell errors out? Do we catch those errors now?
That's a good question. Okay, so we have our new PowerShell step, which you guys probably have guessed I'm really excited about. I somewhat like PowerShell.
Zealot.
Understatement of the year. So, yes. Now, if you create a new package and we create a PowerShell step, with the commandlets and the code that you put in here, we're doing some basic error handling so that we can better handle this in PDQ deploy so that when there's an error, you know about it.
Okay, so is this kind of like the batch file, or is it, we could do a batch file or command step? This is just PowerShell straight
That's
up.
exactly what it is.
Okay.
It's straight up. It goes over to the target as a PowerShell file and runs it and comes back with the results.
Okay, so...
So, one thing to know, PowerShell, unlike when you're running stuff in batch or command line, you're running a bunch of other, different executables. Like you're running ipconfig or you're running ping. Those are different executables that kick back exit codes. Not with PowerShell. They actually do exceptions. They don't do exit codes natively within PowerShell itself. So that's why we have to do this.
Chris, I'm not as big a nerd as you. What exactly does that mean, man?
It basically means if you don't do anything and you just type PowerShell into this window and say, hey, go fight win and deploy to somebody, if an error happens, it's going to throw an error in PDQ deploy.
Is it going to say it failed?
It will. In fact,
so you got to do something
that.
with those errors. Okay.
Yes.
All right.
So, a very simple PowerShell script that we use for testing is just an alias for get child item, which you can also type just dir like you would in a command prompt. And so
You're not confusing me, man.
Well,
which is probably not hard to do today, but
here we go. So this is just basically going to say let's just use the root drive. Let's just get that from the root drive. So we'll just do a get child item. So if you deploy this to somebody, it's actually going to run that command on that machine.
Okay.
Normally when it runs, we'll just do it real quick here. I'll just run it on fry here.
Okay.
It's going to give back a result. If there's no errors, you're going to see a successful package. It's great, everything's fancy, and you're having a good time. We can see the result of the output here once this finishes.
Apparently there's a lot on your C drive, or on Fry's C drive. And Fry's a machine again, guys. So.
Fry. So, successful. Take a look at the output log, and it lists what's there.
Okay.
So, pretty clean cut. If, however, you are doing something as part of the package and you're listing a directory, or you're trying to go grab a file, go find a file, you try to do a commandlet that is, or actually let's just do another folder. We'll just do fake folder, because this doesn't exist on Fry.
Okay.
This is going to error out. So, when you let's just redeploy this one.
Okay.
To Fry, it's actually going to give an error. Normally in PowerShell, if you're in a PowerShell window, you say, you type a command and it gives an error. You'll see in nice red, terrifying text that you had an error. Acknowledge me. In the case of previous versions of deploy, we just kind of checked whether or not the PowerShell script ran or not. Now we're actually diving into it with this PowerShell script to say, okay, if there was an error, I want to know about it and I want to treat it as an error. It failed. And if you notice here, the error will actually say an error occurred inside PowerShell script. So we're trying to make it as clear as possible. So here, we just have this return code that is arbitrary to our products. You can take a look at that in our documentation. It has a lot more details about this. But if we pop it open, we actually see the error that you would see if you ran this from a PowerShell console.
Okay.
So there it is. And so we do basic error handling because this doesn't return an exit code and tell PDQ deploy that it was a 1 or a 0 or whatever. We do a little bit of wrap around that when we send it over to the target machine to say if there's an error, kick back this error code, which is this -37104. I don't know why we picked that one, but we did. So.
A little Kentucky windage there, maybe?
Possibly.
So, okay. So, what makes this important? Can you start doing things off of errors and return codes now?
Yes, we can, and that is the whole point. Thank you. So, for those of us who are familiar with PowerShell or any other scripting or programming language, you might be familiar with if-else statements or try-catch blocks, so that you can try a command and then hopefully catch any errors that happen.
Okay.
Which is going to be important here because they don't return an exit code or an error code, with which we can handle in PDQ deploy.
So what you're saying is we got to basically build our error codes into this?
Yes.
Okay.
So, we'll actually use that same example. I'll actually keep that there. We'll say try. We want to try this. And then I'm just going to do a little bit of basic formatting so I can actually understand this here. So we'll close this.
Little obsessive compulsive there, maybe?
Possibly. So in this case, we'll just say catch. Let's just say write output. You had an error. Congratulations.
You congratulate yourselves on errors?
I do. They're proud. They're learning moments.
Hey, I'm here because someone broke something, all right?
And someone's
Chris.
proud of that, probably. With PowerShell.
Yep.
So here, this is a basic construct here with a try-catch statement. I'm not going to go too complex. If you're interested, please look it up. Take a look at my blog. We'll probably do some more examples in the future with try-catch statements now with this deploy 9 in PowerShell to get a little more examples. But in this case, all it's saying is try this command, and if an error occurs, catch it and run this command.
Okay, now I just got a semantic question.
Please.
It says try it. Is it actually going to run it, or is it just going to kind of, well, let's see if this will actually work?
It'll run it.
It will run it. Okay.
But if it fails, it kind of says, okay, if you failed, let's do this.
Give me this, do this
Let's
instead?
do this.
Okay.
Let's catch it and do this.
Okay.
It's used for many different things, including a stupid statement here that says write output. You had an error. Congratulations. But in addition to that, you can use these exit codes with which to pass back to PDQ deploy. So let's just say exit 1, 2, 3. If it runs that code, it'll kick back that. If it, it'll kick back that deployment with 1, 2, 3 as that error code. But there is one caveat for PowerShell. No details, because again, we're going to get too nerdy here with PowerShell. We'll save that for possibly a blog. But
I think we've already gotten too nerdy, Chris. To be honest with you, but
we're there. I know.
we're there. We are so there.
A lot of the commands in PowerShell, the commandlets, they're what are called non-terminating errors, like this case, when it doesn't find a folder, it's going to try internally within that command. Let's say, oh, I can't find it. What do I do? Well, I'm just going to continue because it's not breaking PowerShell.
Okay.
So in order to actually make it catch properly, you're actually going to have to add an extra parameter here called error action and tell it to stop. And this will actually make it say, okay, if this encounters an error, stop what you're doing and run the catch block. So in this case, that'll say you had an error, congratulations, exit with 1, 2, 3.
Okay.
So let's go run that on Fry again. Yes. And we should be able to get a little more creative, a little more complex with our scripts here. So that previous question, which we still recommend PDQ inventory for, you could do some construct like this, trying to find an application. If it doesn't find it, exit 1, 2, 3, and you know that it didn't find it. So.
Still running.
I know, it's riveting. It's like watching paint dry. Failed. And notice, it said package returned, error code 1, 2, 3. Amazing.
So does it give us details beyond the 1, 2, 3 in the output?
Let's find out. Epilogue. You had an error. Congratulations.
Yay.
That's very informative. I know. This is how I do all my errors.
You know what? I'll drink to that. You should drink to that too.
I'll drink
Chris.
to that.
Well done, buddy. Well done. JJ?
Yeah, developing bad habits.
We'll script them out. That's okay.
Yeah, that's right.
If something goes wrong, drink.
That's right.
I can do this with PowerShell. Yeah.
That's right. Oh, one thing to note about this as well. Because up until this point, you've been able to run PowerShell scripts in an install step.
Yeah.
But as I mentioned briefly earlier, if you ran the PowerShell script, all PDQ deploy cared about is if you were able to successfully run that script or not.
Okay.
And so even if your script had 100 errors, according to PDQ deploy, it just knew that
ran
PowerShell could run
just
it.
fine. Okay.
Yes, successful. We changed that. So people who upgrade to deploy 9 and have existing install step that references PowerShell scripts, if they had any errors, they're going to fail now. So it's going to be even more important to take a look at this error action stop, to possibly clear your errors out if you don't want it to happen, and to actually really dive into PowerShell to get a little more complex.
I'm just assuming your next blog is going to be about that.
Oh, definitely. There's going to be a lot of information about this.
Well,
I'm excited. You should be excited.
Chris, it's PowerShell. You're always excited.
I know.
When they come out with the PowerShell burrito, you'll be like, woohoo, PowerShell burrito.
I know. And I'm going to use PDQ deploy it to my stomach. So.
It's so bad. I love it.
And our next question from Carter M. Which PowerShell version does it run? Is it the version that is installed on the target machine?
Hi, Carter.
That is a great question.
It is a great question. That is a fantastic question, in fact. Any guesses? It runs the version that's on the target.
It does.
So-
There's some caveats there. So if
Yeah,
you write a
that's-
PowerShell 3 script that's not backward compatible with 2, air it out, huh?
Yeah, you're going to have errors on those machines. And so I think recently we had some packages in our package library for uninstalling Google Chrome per user, uninstalling Firefox per user. If you deploy those on any machine that has PowerShell 2, or prior to that, 1,
No worky?
it no worky.
Yeah.
So upgrade your machines. It's good to have updated PowerShell. Or you can modify it, I suppose.
So I guess I got a question. Can you test in PowerShell for the PowerShell version before you run something?
Sure, let's do that. Let's make a package for that.
Cool. Now, I've also heard somewhere along the lines that we plan on putting some options in to say those kind of things in our PowerShell scripts in the future. Not guaranteeing.
No
guys.
promises.
No
Not a
promises.
promise, but it has been kicked around development quite a bit.
But I'm a big advocate for it, so.
Oh, yeah.
And since my opinion matters or something. Not really. Okay, so this command here, which is just like a global variable in PowerShell, gets you back the version of PowerShell. So, PS version table. Give me the PowerShell version. Let's do Fry. What version does Fry have? Take your votes.
Okay, so here's the thing. So if it returns the version of PowerShell, you can put it in the success error code, and if it's anything but that, it'll fail and stop the deployment.
Sure, that's actually a great idea.
It's a great way to do it.
Look at that.
First step, bang.
Look at that.
Boom, there you
Lex
go.
is PowerShell master already.
I've got the Zen of PowerShell. Is that it?
Possibly through osmosis.
Not hardly.
So here we have the output log, and we run, and we kick back, and right here you can see that the PowerShell version, that's what this is version 5. That's because Fry is a Windows 10 machine, so it has PowerShell version 5 by default. So that's the easy way to do it. You can find out all your versions on that. Additionally, we also have, in PDQ inventory, in our latest version, we have new default collections for PowerShell, and you can have it broken down. It's part of our scan now. It's in the computer details window. you can look and see the version of PowerShell that they have, so you
Should
can
we fire
actually build
that up?
collections.
Let's fire
Let's
it
do
up.
it, please.
Hey, JJ, I didn't center these windows. This ought to be interesting.
Yes, it will.
Yay.
I'm riveted.
Riveted.
And also zoomed out completely.
Riveted and zoomed. That's a smart move. All right, so we got new collections for PowerShell. Chris, take us there, baby.
I will. Right. Right there. Here we go. So we have PowerShell 1 through 5. And you can see here that we have 3 machines here. 2 of them have PowerShell 2. These guys, that means they're on Windows 7. You can see right here, and they haven't been upgraded because Windows 7 by default has 2. And we have one with PowerShell 4, which is Windows 8.1, the default. So these guys haven't been upgraded. It's pretty fancy.
So you're as zealous as you are, and our lab only has like, what, 3 or 4 versions of PowerShell on it? You should be ashamed of yourself, man.
Oh, no.
Tonight, the whole network's going to go wild. I'm going to get a bunch of alerts. Chris is installing PowerShell everywhere.
On everything. It's going to be great.
I guess I had that coming, huh?
You did. So,
Do we got any more questions? What else we got?
Yeah, we do.
sweet.
Got a great question from Jason A. Can we use a PowerShell step that if a package fails for a 1603 MSI error to restart the machine and redeploy?
Okay. Hi, Jason.
Keeping you on your feet.
We're getting some good questions here. Yes, not
Kind
really
of.
easily.
Yes? Kind of. I'm sitting there going, I wonder how Chris is going to answer this one.
There's something I've done in the past that is, it's not clean. There's not a good way to do this, is what I'm saying. What I have done, and you may explore this, you may get frustrated and stop with this, and I don't blame you. What you can do is in the middle of a PowerShell script, if you're running, I've done this for baseline and re-imaging machines in the past. When you run a script, you can actually kind of pause where you're at and create a new scheduled task before rebooting the machine, and that scheduled task will then be set. You have to make sure to set up the syntax properly, but make it set to start where you last finished after rebooting the machine on reboot. Yeah, it's getting pretty convoluted at this point, but it is possible. It's just not natively in PDQ deploy, and so you're gonna have to really think outside the box.
Okay, so first of all, we can say pretty much anything is possible in PowerShell is what you're saying?
Yes.
All right. How much work you want to do to make it happen is a totally different story.
Something like that, you may really want to consider just accepting that it failed and redeploying or creating a schedule.
Yeah, it might be much easier.
So, but it is possible, just not natively through our tools.
Yeah.
So, good question.
What else we got? We got another one? Guys, it's a good time to hit Chris up for this stuff because he's brilliant PowerShell. Guru, actually.
Ooh, that's a cool word.
Guru? Yeah.
Ready for the next question, guys?
Never. I mean,
Okay.
yes, bring it on.
It's from Massimo R. Cool name, Massimo. I like that one. Can the PS feature also connect to Office 365?
Hi, Massimo. Yes, it can. As long as you have commandlets for it or you have a way to connect to it, which it does. I've actually managed it. You can. Yes, absolutely. I don't have them in front of me. I don't know. You'd have to go download with your Office 365 set. I don't recall if there's a module for it, but if you have that module and you can actually send it with your deployment, absolutely. There's no reason you could not.
How do you not know this off the top of your head, Chris?
It hurts.
You don't keep that in your mental Rolodex, man?
No, it takes too long to search. It's not indexed.
There you go, buddy. Keep going off screen.
That's weird.
Next question from Jason M. With the PowerShell step, are the restrictions on the providers that can be accessed like registry or environment variables?
Hi, Jason. We have a lot of people named Jason watching. This is great. I'm guessing that we mean, are there restrictions on the providers? And no, there are not. I mean, anything that you can do in PowerShell, you can do with our PowerShell step. So in this case, if you go, again, referencing the webcast that we did last week and those scripts that we wrote for uninstalling per user Google Chrome and Firefox, we actually removed stuff from the registry and the file system. So, I mean, no, go to town. You can do lots.
Be careful.
Yes, be careful.
Be careful and do it midday so that everybody knows you're the boss. Always do that.
Full
Wouldn't you
contact
agree?
IT.
Full contact
I like
IT.
it. I like it. It's good stuff. Good question. So, go to town. It'll be fun.
We got another one?
Yeah, it's not PowerShell related, but
Well, hit it. We'll
it is
try
a question. So
It is a question. Why does your voice go up when you say it? It is a question.
because I know Chris is disappointed.
Oh,
I can see
that's
it
a
on
good
his
point.
face.
All
It's
right.
not PowerShell.
I'll try and answer it then if it's not PowerShell, Chris.
It's not PowerShell, but It's from Caseman 247. That makes up for it right there.
It does.
Is there an easy way to move packages to the repository?
Copy paste.
Well, that's an answer.
Wow. Okay.
Or I guess
I don't know if
Control
I
C,
understand
Control V.
It's like open two windows and drag and drop. I mean, Chris, you got any ideas, man?
PowerShell?
I was gonna guess
PowerShell.
that you were gonna say that.
Honestly, man.
No,
You
seriously.
said easy ways.
No, RoboCopy is a great utility out there. If
That
you're just
does
looking
work
for a
pretty
good
good.
one, use RoboCopy. It has so many good features in there for making sure that you can mirror directories, make sure they're copying, make sure that they're actually good, valid copies of the copies you make. So use RoboCopy.
Cracking me up, man. You were just cracking me up today.
You can use that in PowerShell.
When all you have is a hammer.
That's right. Everything looks like a
nail.
nail.
PowerShell.
That is power.
But yes, I recommend RoboCopy. I quite like it.
Really, you meant PowerShell, right?
In PowerShell, I mean.
Yeah,
So
RoboCopy,
use
okay.
RoboCopy in PowerShell.
There you go. That's just great. Well, yeah, let's wrap it up. So, any rate, guys. So that's what's new in PDQ Deploy 9. The backups, which are great for your database. Repository cleanup. Remember our warning, okay? If it's a shared repository, be careful unless you don't like the person who's sharing your stuff, and then go to town.
Yep.
And then, PowerShell, guys. Try it out. It's killer.
Yay.
Hey, thanks for watching, guys.
Thank you.
For joining. Webcast winners Caseman and Carter M. If you'll email me, I'll hook you up with some PDQ swag. Also, our raffle winner was Richard W., so I'll email you and get that shirt out to you. Be sure to join us next week. We've got Jeremy Moskowitz joining us, so that should be really awesome. You can ask him any questions. And we'll see you guys next Thursday.